Hello and welcome back to the Daily Edge special day. Get Jake Noodleberg as my co-pilot, and we are going to break down what your content should look like for the rest of 2025. As we do each week, we start with a daily affirmation. Today's affirmation, very apropos, my voice matters. In a world filled with content, I don't need to create like everyone else. I show up with purpose, authenticity, and consistency, and that's how I win.
Oh man, we're gonna talk about content today, huh? And the rest of
dude. I mean, this has been the I think the most significant paradigm shift for people who say to me, "Oh, I'm not really creative, and isn't that part of my marketing department?" And I must say to preface this, you have done a masterful job of moving the needle for On the Ball. Many more people watching us and attracted to us that I think never before.
I think love bombing will be the first buzzword that we use. You know what? Do you know what? Some father and son, for those of you who do not know, joined On the Ball about 5 years ago. If you've listened to the show, you know who I am. But for those new listeners, I am the director of success. I handle a lot of the branding, a lot of the things that go forward facing to our clients, our prospective clients, our community, to the new audience, to capture new audience. The game is exhausting. I think to start there, content is exhausting. It's constantly changing. The fight for views is easier than ever, but also harder than ever. The strategy of which you go about getting those views, what you do once you get those views, what you do once you get a like, once you do a comment, what should you do? Should you hammer them with a sale? Should it be retargeted? should it lead to another video where it explains? And I think everybody is trying.
You mean you can't teach it to me in 10 minutes?
Well, I think everybody's trying to find the correct journey and the correct ROI with content. I think it's hard. And so this conversation is interesting because I do want to break down what I see as some trends. We're going to talk about probably a little bit different platforms, as in LinkedIn, Instagram, because the strategy is different. But, even from your perspective, where have you seen content go? You've been posting even back from Facebook back in 2014 or whatever.
So I was an early adopter. I know you guys used to laugh at me because you're like,
whole life. Well,
what are you doing on Facebook?
The best thing that I think you can own this is, and people say this to me, which is kudos to you. They go, I feel like I know you.
Right.
And I'm not the poster. You're the poster. Yeah. You've shared our life in a way where people really do feel like they know me before I meet them. And that obviously has been very fruitful for your career.
Yeah. So I was one of those guys. I was fascinated with the fact that I now had the opportunity to market myself. Mm-hmm. I didn't have to wait for the name of my company.
In a free place.
And it was like, holy cow, have you learned this thing? So I never felt compelled to sell anything other than share who I was and what I do. And sort of, so, I learned early on that it was more about documenting than it was creating. People get all caught. I'm not a creative person. Don't be creative.
Share.
What do you want the audience to understand? I had lessons that I was willing to share, continue to do that. Here's my take on things. So, when I saw you come into it,
first of all, I think that is actually a great definition of what marketing is. Yeah. Is helping what is it? You said it, helping the industry understand I
had a chance to market myself. So I wanted people to know who I was. Prior to that, it was only the name on the door that they were marketing. And so, you could go to any business and there's multiple points of sale.
I think you said getting the market to understand or to know
who I was. Yeah. I wanted them to know who I was and what I was doing. And that's an education thing. So guys like Gary Vee, early on, I was fortunate, to meet him and understand what he was doing. And, they were all about awareness. They were like, forget selling. just share.
So I think there's content in two different places. There's the individual and then there's the company, right?
Correct.
You're going to have people who are running company brands, which comes with a giant set of barriers today. I think people want to buy from people and therefore, brands are struggling or they are doing collaborations with people to associate their brands with people, which they've done for years and years. It just happens to be a new place. But I want to focus a little bit on LinkedIn because that's where we do a lot of our work. And I think content is shifting. And it's interesting to me because a lot of the people who maybe were against content and stayed on the fence, and then you had the introduction of AI, and I think another buzzword number 2, keep count, is AI slop is the new.
Oh, new to me. I can only imagine what that means.
That social media has become AI slop, and if you used AI to craft your message or your idea, then you are somehow less creative or your message isn't worth being read.
This is horseshit.
It reminds me of my English teacher in 7th grade who said if you couldn't write an expository essay, you might as well not say anything, right, on a paper, right, or anything like that.
Those are the people that blew me up.
It was the structure, right, against it. And then there's the other side of it. Here's buzzword number 3. There you have vibe posting, which is posting on LinkedIn whenever you feel like. And brands are becoming more, less, tailored in their messaging, or not in their, what they want people to understand, but a little bit more raw, and behind the scenes is now more sexy than over, edited. But then you also have the 1% who are the quote unquote influencers, which I think are doing different than most people. They have highly produced content. They are highly editing. Like my girlfriend works in marketing. I watch her edit videos for studios, salons.
That's a public outing.
That is a public outing that I have a girlfriend.
Yes.
For those listening,
it's real.
But like watching the editing process, and Shay will talk about it to nauseam. Like the work that goes behind running a full marketing content engine, which is kind of what is needed today. I mean, look at Red Bull. Red Bull is a full production company. You see coffee shops who have full TV shows with reoccurring characters, and
I think you hit on something that's really important to stop and understand that every business is really a marketing business first.
Everybody.
You need to be, you're a production, right? You're a marketing, you're a production house, you're all of those things. Well, the genesis of this conversation came from you and I working out and you giving me real-time feedback on my content.
Yeah.
And, I want people to understand this, is that everything you see isn't just haphazard. It's thought out.
Strategy.
There's a strategy, a content strategy.
I love this within the different social media apps. They give you so many different ways to connect with your audience or new people, right? Like we could look at LinkedIn and we'll use you as a case study for what we did in the last, I don't know, few months or whatever like that. You would express that some of the, content has gotten stale, and one of the things I said was, it's not really sounding like you anymore, was the first thing.
And that was unsolicited. You
and if there were some rules that I like to follow as content, is I don't want to meet Gary Vee and Gary Vee not be the persona for which he is online.
That's a miss.
Right? Like, you meet Gary Vee, and for the people that I know who have met him, you've talked about it, like, he is who he is on camera.
1,000%.
Right? Mark Cuban is another one who is the exact same person. And so you really have to live whatever your brand is, because I think with the AI tools, and we're talking at a personal level, that you can get away from being authentic really quick. And the more that we go to quote unquote AI slop, being authentic means it matches, right? It matches who you are. It sounds like you, because ultimately you will get in front of them from the human perspective. And if you don't match, then it's AI slop, right? But if it's on par with what you teach, what you believe, then there's no problem using tools to shape it, right? That would be number one. Number two, where I said that there's a lot of different ways to get in your audience or community. You have your posting, right? You can do newsletters, right? You can go live. And I'm talking specifically for LinkedIn. On Instagram, you could talk about stories.
But if you don't
talk
know
about audio, right? But what I'm talking about in 2025 is you really have to dominate your platform. I think there's a lot of different platforms that exist right now, and you really have to understand what you're selling and what your product is, or what your goal is of the strategy, and really have steps in there to get there instead of just freely doing it.
the purpose or the point I wanted to get across in this conversation for people, I want to give them an insight into our conversation. I am speaking to a defined audience that I want to. That's aspirational. I want to talk to CEOs. I want to talk to entrepreneurs. I want to talk to thought leaders, people who are responsible for revenue in their company. I want to talk to them. I give them stuff that I think is actionable, whether they take to it or not. You know, you've helped me move it along, where the most recent conversation was, you know what, you don't really tell people.
You called it implied.
Yeah.
A lot of what we talk about is implied.
You would think I'm good at it.
You know,
right? And this is the point of this conversation, because I don't ever tell people real stories about what happened. I don't know if people
case
are private,
studies, and I think it's interesting that you say that now, because it was almost like frowned upon to do that before. It was it was like an invasion of, and so now.
How dare you share my story?
And then you also, you used to say this to me. I go, I don't know what that means. Or when we were talking about taglines or branding, and you were like, yeah, but it gets them to ask a question. I was like, yeah, but everybody's getting thrown a million different things now.
The time has changed.
The time has changed now, where like people want to know, and they want to position you as somebody who helps them do something, right? And once they have somebody positioned as that, whether that be a chef, whoever they trust, you're going to go to that source repeatedly. And so I think with the oversaturation of, it's a lot easier to post and create content, you it can't be implied as much anymore. Like, you really got to hone in.
The true story
on who
is,
you're talking to.
We're in the gym. Somebody that I work with texted me at 6 o'clock in the morning and said, "Hey, boom, my first $50,000 month." Yeah. And like, she goes, "I couldn't wait to tell you." I shared it with him, and he goes, "Why don't you post that?" And I was like, and then, the next thing you know, he screenshots it. I put some thoughts to it, and it was incredibly well received. There were more people who came inbound and said, "Oh, I didn't realize you could do it for an individual entrepreneur," or what, maybe business is business.
Yeah, I just, you have to have a strategy with content,
correct,
right? Like, I want to hone in on it, that like your goal is to get comments, likes in order to go, or a subscribe in order to go hunt them for a conversation. Now, if your product, or if you're selling a product that doesn't really, like, we are a high ticket item, like, you are going to have to speak to a human being in order to consume from us for the most part, right? You're going to have to talk to us. You're going to want to. There are also items out there that cost $19.99 or $10.99, right?
May not be appropriate.
Right? And you can hammer people a lot different way in your content, where you don't need to have the barrier of talking to a human, And so I think it's really smart, or it's important that you're following trends and you're looking at what everybody is doing, but also really honing in on what your goal is, right? And I think a lot of marketers are struggling now, because a lot of the people that are in the CEO role now come from the COO space, where it's a lot of profitability and making sure that everything has an ROI, which you should probably run, I don't know, maybe some struggles as a CEO for you is that you were a sell, right? You were the high number guy, not the right? Whatever that number
Never
was.
said I did everything well, right?
But it's hard in this world right now, because followers don't automatically lead to sales anymore, and having a big following,
although they might,
if you have the right strategy and to where you're leading them. I love this analogy in marketing of, I equate it to Disneyland or Disney World, or anytime there's a line for a ride and you get there and it's got a big entrance in the front, and call that your website. It's your big entrance, and it gets people to come to the ride, right? But then after that, or call your homepage, or whatever the starting point of the ride is, right? Call it either they see a piece of content, they're on your webpage, they're on your LinkedIn page, whatever the starting point is. You have to think of it as almost like a journey where you're in a ride, right? Like, you don't start at the front of Men in Black and then you're at the ride, right? They don't let you just free ride, right? Or walk through. You walk through in a line where you want the person to go, and you get them to the ride. Boom, and go this way, go this way. You cannot go out of right. You can't get out of it. And so I see a lot of people with their websites or their links and their clicks, and you get to them, you're like, I love that content. I love that guy. I want more of him. Okay, you just handed me 9 options. I can sign up for his newsletter. I can go to his website. I can learn. And then you're like, oh my God, I don't know. it's simplifying the next step for somebody in marketing of where you want them to go and what you want to do. It might just be following. It just might be that you're growing the audience. But if you're really trying to start conversations or get them to take an action, you really have to think about it almost like a step-to-step journey of where you're leading them and making it easy to get there where it doesn't feel friction and they're making a lot of decisions.
So I've had big companies, I've had small companies. Prior to you and Mark joining, I was sort of a solopreneur again with Shay. When you came into the company, your career path was not direct. We didn't really know what you were going to do. You were trying to figure it out. I opened up a few companies for you that you did not engage with.
5 years ago now.
Right, 5 years ago. So I'm very particular or very particularly interested in how you got to where you are, because I have hired CMOs before, and you have not only grown into that position, you are a badass CMO.
Was the question, how did I get to my belief system in marketing, or how did I get to, or where did I find, what
clicked? All of a sudden,
I would tell you, to keep for the sake of the episode of marketing and what content should look like in 2025, I don't want to hijack it about me.
But I do think it's important.
For marketing, we sat here 6 months ago and we were like, here, where's the company and where do we need to go? And I go, we need to crystallize the entire branding, marketing, strategy, everything, top to bottom, about who we are, what we do, and really crystallizing, because a lot of what we had done was implied marketing. Well, nobody really knew how they could work with us, what we were even capable of doing, right? And it's amazing. Like, I went to another brand, and they had a post, and they were like, ways to work with us in 2025. And in my head, I was like, well, that was a simple idea post. Why didn't I just do that? Like, that's not intrusive.
I never did that.
But that's not intrusive. Like, that's, especially on LinkedIn, where people are looking to get better. And should that be every day of your content? No. But if that's your informing post of the week, that's damn valuable to mix with your 5 other posts. That's informing, educating, it's entertaining. Like, that's a hell of an informing post for somebody who goes, well, I love them. Oh, that's cool. It's good to know how I can actually work with them. But sometimes we get so far away from
or it takes you too long to get there and they bail.
Correct. Right. And you're constantly playing that game. But for me, I just realized the importance of the unified messaging of a company. And we were on a podcast with the CEO of Hootsuite, but incentivizing the people in the company to post about
I'm glad you brought
ongoing initiatives and knowing that the messaging coming out of a team and a company is great. And look, I remember being a part of football, like the messaging that came out of that week was always big, whatever it was. We had a team message,
drove behavior, drove
everything we did. And so I think your marketing and your branding should be a constant eval. Like, you're constantly evolving, constantly realizing what you're saying. It's a lot of trial and error. That's on the corporate side. And then on the personal side, you have to have some sort of brand. I don't care who you are. Like, it's too easy now. Share the things that you're, happy about or working on, like we use something that with our clients, we do some of the content for them, which, look, we don't advertise that, but there's ways that you can do it. But like, we do a weekly download where it's asking the client win of the week. Is there anything coming up on the calendar where you featured in anything? Did your kids have any birthdays? There's so many different levers or triggers is what we like to call them in our sales development and coaching, where how many different triggers and how many different things can you bring people into your community to get them to know your brand, which is, there's so many different avenues and not really a cost-effective one.
So I'm really glad you brought up the CEO of Hootsuite. So, I found her one day, boom, Irina Novoselsky. I hope I said that right.
Hell of a name.
She's amazing. She's very out there. She talks about the power of her team helping her or whatever, but she made a commitment to talk to her customers.
Well, her statement was... this question that was posed to her, for other CEOs or leaders who do not think that content is important, what would you say? And she went, look, that's the normal drawback of everybody, which I almost alluded to it in the beginning of the episode. I find it funny that a lot of people that were against content as a whole and doing it, they were given a tool to make it easier. But instead of that, they were like, well, see, now it's no point to do it if that's
if you're looking for a way out.
It just became another way out, right? But I love that what she said was, she goes, to my leaders who are against it, she goes, are you like customer facing and are you going to talk to customers in your role? And if the answer is yes, then it's wildly beneficial because they hear your voice, the things you're saying, you're in the field, you're social listening, you don't feel out of touch. And then she goes, but for a CEO who has nothing really ever to do with that, she goes, yeah, you should have a presence for your people and maybe some outside. She goes, maybe not, because that's not important to your priorities as a CEO. And so it really does define as a human what your priorities are, but I don't care what it is. You should have some sort of brand, no matter what your role is.
So you are responsible here for pushing our brand content out, guiding the rest of us
audience, I think,
in what we do. You're helping me, my content.
Growing and educating our audience.
But you brought up a term that there's another buzzword, but I do want to address it. So you usually go for 5, right? I'm a 5. Give me 5. You said social listening. Unpack that for people, because I think it's one of the most effective ways to be good in sales is listening in general. What is social listening?
Paying attention. But I think there's a scientific term when you talk about it in marketing, and we can get into the actual data mining of marketing, but I don't want that to be the whole conversation. But I think social listening in the sense of it is being engaged to what's going on and being a part of the conversation. For me is where I go to social listening, and trends and things that you're going to lever and being a part of society. Like I find it funny, but I said this to somebody. I go, I feel like people talk more during football season. And someone was like, what do you mean? And I was like, maybe it's just because I like football, but I go, everybody's tuned in. Everybody knows. I feel right now. Daily. Or whatever it is, in a presidential election, I go, and then we find ourselves in August and we're like, why is everybody so miserable? And I was like, because there's nothing going on. But no, I think just social listening is like, where is your brand showing up? What are people saying? What are people saying about your market? There's so many, and
where are the pain points?
Yeah.
What are the highlights?
Yeah.
There's
so many market wins that you could share in as a company.
So the fifth word I want to go over, because I promised 5, I like give me 5, is it's personal. So
it should feel good to you.
It should feel good, man.
Good.
I love the fact that I get to share the things that are important.
I think the only people and there are negative sides of social media and brand boasting, and your company will be made fun of, and whatever it might be. There are so many different things. But it is a really, really rewarding experience when you invest in content and it pays dividends, which if you've listened to the millions and millions of people who have done it, who have made it a part of their priority, their personal and their professional life, and have seen the fruits of it, anybody who's done it would never talk ill about it, or the people who were against it or anything. It's a really rewarding exercise.
So I've done this exercise in person with teams. They get around a table and just something about like, where are you from? Where'd you grow up? One person says New York. The other person says New York. Oh, I didn't know. I've worked with you for 10 years. I didn't know you. Like, what? This whole idea of commonality, if you get to share it. I mean, I have a community of other miserable Jet fans that I talk to all the time, that it is commonplace with friends and clients and whatever. The memes that are coming out for the Jets are just,
look, you got to have a presence. You got to have a presence. You do. It'll be fruitful for your career, for who you meet. It makes you feel good, keeps you engaged. And if you're in sales, you'd for sure have to do it. But great conversation.
So you have done an amazing job. When we talk about the edge, right? This is clearly an opportunity to find the edge.
For me, the edge for me is, one, if you're not posting content, the tools make it very easy to do it. I think there's so much evidence of people doing it. So if you want to follow, and then just what you're going to see after is the edge. I really do. I get it'll give you the edge of who you meet, what you do, and the way you look at yourself and your confidence. That would be the edge for today.
And I'm a proud dad.